They discovered Daniel's shocking secret that saved him in the lion's den. Few knew what truly happened that night. The air was thick with dread, the kind that makes your skin crawl. Moonlight streamed through the cracks in the prison walls, creating ghostly patterns on the stone floor. Daniel, a man of unwavering faith, sat hunched in the corner, heart racing, each thump echoing in the silence like a war drum. He was alone, yet all around him were whispers and unseen eyes. Was it really just the lions waiting for him? In Babylon, a land ruled by fear and oppression, Daniel had defied kings. The edict was clear: pray to no one but the king. Yet Daniel, a man favored by God, prayed in solitude, a mixture of desperation and determination bubbling within him. The lions, massive beasts with glistening coats and eyes like burning coals, awaited him with hungry patience. Did they sense something? Was there a power beyond what the castle guards understood? Historians would say he was the victim of jealousy, a target of deceitful nobles. But even deeper lay the spiritual stakes. It wasn't just Daniel's life on the line. It was a battle of faith against tyranny. The night was tense, crackling like a thunderstorm ready to unleash chaos. Would the lions pounce at the slightest movement? Would they taste his fear? The walls seemed to close in as echoes of earlier events swirled around him. Earlier shouts of "Traitor!" rang in his ears. He remembered the cold eyes of the conspirators, their smiles twisted with vindictive joy. Daniel felt a lump in his throat. Could he truly rely on God? Were these moments mere coincidences, or was there something divine waiting to unfold? The door creaked open, sending a chill down his spine. Torches flickered ominously, casting dancing shadows. The guards watched with narrow eyes, their anticipation palpable. He could hear their grumbles, their inner excitement to witness the verdict of the law. Would they become mere spectators of destiny? Or did they, too, fear the darkness? Daniel took a deep breath, his spirit flickering like a candle in the wind. He closed his eyes momentarily, recalling the peace that prayer brought him. In that fragile moment, hope blew me to fierce, stubborn ache inside him. Was it truly possible that something beyond reason, something supernatural, would save him? Suddenly, a fierce growl echoed through the chamber. The lions stirred, bodies shifting restlessly. The tension mounted, awaiting storm. Just how much longer could Daniel hold on to his secret? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the shadows danced ominously around him, Daniel's heartbeat synchronized with the rustling breath of the lions. The darkness seemed to breathe, heavy with unsaid words, and within it lay a mystery far deeper than the betrayal he had experienced. In that fractious moment, he sensed a presence not just that of the creatures designed to prey upon him, but something more, something divine. With the guards still standing vigil at the entrance, anticipation buzzing in the air, Daniel's mind drifted to the words of scripture he had memorized through countless nights of prayer. "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you." Those were not just words, they were a lifeline. His eyes closed again, and he inhaled deeply, drawing the strength of ancient promises into his spirit. But then, as if in response to his plea, the growl of the lions morphed into an eerie silence. Daniel opened his eyes and looked at the beasts, their glistening eyes now fixed on him, reflecting something he could not understand. Was it curiosity? Or did they sense the resilience that clung to him like a second skin? The chamber felt alive, as though the very walls were listening, holding their breath in collective tension. Daniel pondered the weight of faith in the presence of death. What did it mean to trust in the unseen? He was not just fighting for his own life. It felt as though he was standing at the precipice of faith itself, a figure of hope against the swirling chaos of the world. Meanwhile, outside the den, a low murmur erupted among the guards. They were discussing the implications of the king's decree and the audacity of Daniel's actions. The more they spoke, the more Daniel understood that this was not merely a pit for punishment, but a battleground for two kingdoms, the kingdom of heaven and the kingdom of men. Was I born for this moment? He questioned silently, the thoughts swirling in his mind. The tears he had shed for his people, the prayers for their deliverance, the years spent in servitude, did they lead him to this spectral confrontation with death itself? The eerie quiet was unexpectedly broken by a sound, the mighty thud of a paw against the stone floor. The lions, great beings of instinct, still held their ground, but one of them moved closer as if drawn by an unnameable force. Daniel's heart pounded in sync with the pounding of his thoughts. Did they sense his fervent spirit, his unyielding hope? A tremor of doubt flickered in the back of his mind. Was his secret worth this risk, this testing? Should he have chosen self-preservation over the stubbornness of faith? But then he remembered. This was not solely about him. It was about proclaiming the greatness of God in the face of human decrees. Suddenly, a deep rumbling echoed through the chamber, resonating from the very core of the earth. The lions, equally startled, turned their heads in unison towards the sounds. What force was at work? Was it a spiritual shift, or the impending judgment of the king's decree? And thus Daniel sat still in the center of destiny, wrapped in a cocoon of fear and faith. As the clock of fate ticked unyieldingly towards the hour of reckoning, he whispered a silent prayer, each word a thread in the tapestry of hope. In the imminent clash of faith and circumstance, he was left to wonder, could the true battle take place not against the jaws of the lions but within his very own heart? As the rumble faded, the silence in the lion's den thickened, almost palpable. Daniel felt as if he were suspended in time, caught between the heartbeat of the universe and the stillness of his own resolve. The lions seemed to pulse with life, their mystique bleeding into the heavy atmosphere, entangling him in a riddle of existence. What would it take for a man to emerge from the den not just alive, but transformed? Deep within him, the firm foundations of his faith stood like an impregnable fortress. He recalled the stories of his forefathers, the treks through the wilderness, the fiery furnace that had not consumed his friends, the parting of the Red Sea. They too had faced their moments of reckoning. What wisdom might they impart in this charged stillness? In dubious pondering, he settled into a contemplative stillness, allowing the warmth of memories to wash over him. Words began to form in his mind, not of despair, but of exaltation, of praise. Yahweh, deliver me, he whispered, though he felt as if all creation were focused on him, awaiting the unveiling of his heart's secret. In the depths of his reverie, he recognized that every breath he took in that den was a testament to a higher purpose, one vastly beyond his own comprehension. Then, as if answering an unvoiced prayer, one of the lions moved closer still. A majestic creature with a mane that flowed like golden silk, it lowered its powerful head, its gaze penetrating Daniel's soul. For a fleeting moment, they seemed to share an understanding, an unspoken connection that transcended the boundaries of predator and prey. Was it fear that gripped the lion or an instinctive recognition of righteousness? The air between them trembled with unspeakable anticipation. Daniel's heart raced as he pondered the possibility that, in this elemental standoff, God might be revealing something beyond survival, a glimpse into divine redemption itself. Yet apprehension gnawed at him. What secret had brought him to this very moment? Faith alone had propelled him here, but perhaps his very being contained a spark of the divine. Could his unwavering devotion be manifesting in even the wildest of God's creations? Above in the world free from this dark enclave, the conversations among the guards had escalated into a cacophony of doubt and speculation. The words of the king rang ominously in their minds, words of power, but also of insecurity. As they debated, they were unwittingly weaving a tapestry of fear while Daniel was immersed in the labor of faith. Little did they know, the very essence of God's deliverance was at play in the silence below. With every passing second, he felt himself drawn not into despair but deeper into faith's embrace, pondering the idea that perhaps more than his physical shelter was needed in that moment. Maybe this lion's den was less a symbol of punishment, and more a rebirth, a sacred womb from which hope could erupt. It felt even more crucial than survival. It was a testament meant to inspire faith in those yearning for a flicker of light amidst the encroaching shadows. As the lion stepped before him, Daniel chose to align himself with the quiet courage that enveloped him, a kind of faith that invited the extraordinary into the mundane. Could it be that in this dark sepulchre, something beautiful was being forged? Just then, the eyes of the lion sparkled, reflecting the flicker of Daniel's own hope, and a profound realization gripped him: salvation could look different than anticipated. In that moment, he fully understood that the victory he yearned for might not manifest in the way he envisioned. Would this encounter lead him to understand the truer depth of faith? Or was the nature of divine providence something far greater, preparing to be revealed only as his spirit deepened with every breath he took? The breath of the lion mingled with the musty air, creating a strange alchemy of fear and awe. Daniel steadied himself against the rocky wall, every muscle taut with an awareness that the moment transcended mere survival. It was woven into the very fabric of God's purpose. As he lingered in this revelation, he felt a gentle pulse of energy that seemed to radiate from the lion, synchronizing with his own heartbeat, a rhythm of divine existence. With the weight of generations upon him, his mind wandered back to the flickering flames that had danced around his friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who had walked in faith into a fiery furnace. He had asked them at the time whether survival was paramount, or if true faith might demand a deeper surrender to divine will, even unto death. The whispers of their faith echoed within him now, swirling in the silence. Could this be a test that mirrored their own trial? In the fading light, with the lion poised before him, Daniel wondered if each encounter held the potential for transformation, not just for him, but for those who would hear the story. The lion, in its primordial majesty, seemed to be a messenger of sorts, heralding a truth unspoken. "Is it not written," he mused softly, "that the righteous shall have their deliverance delayed, not denied?" He pondered the idea of waiting in faith. Could it be that God's timing was as crucial as the deliverance itself, a means to unveil a deeper understanding of His glory? Each inhale seemed to resonate with purpose, whispering of trust overflowing not in triumph but in the quiet corners of destiny. As minutes unfurled, the shadows cast by the flickering torchlight above seemed to dance in anticipation, and Daniel found himself enraptured by the lion's fierce grace. The moment rippled through him, steeping him in wonder. What if in this deepest shadow, I am becoming the very testimony I long to share? The thought engulfed him, igniting a fresh flame of hope within. Yet within that burgeoning hope was a question, a flicker of doubt, eluding him just as he felt he grasped it. What lay within the heart of the lion? Why had it not attacked, and instead lingered in contemplative silence? Was it waiting for a sign, a sound that might shatter their world of quiet? Or perhaps this majestic creature bore witness to the unfolding drama, silent observer of God's will manifesting in what seemed like darkness. As sounds of the guards grew frantic above, Daniel was reminded of the humanity that lay beyond the den. They too felt the weight of dread and uncertainty. In that moment, he committed to a revelation of profound significance. His journey was not solely for himself, but a wave that would extend into the hearts of those outside. How might he carry this luminosity back into a world riddled with night? Again, the lion stepped closer, its golden eyes drawing Daniel further into an abyss of understanding. It seemed to nod, an acknowledgement of the questions swirling in Daniel's heart. Perhaps it was a reflection of his own inner battle, to fear or not. And in that shared gaze, something unfurled within Daniel, a burgeoning revelation that salvation is multidimensional, intricately woven into the tapestry of life itself. As anticipation enveloped him, he realized this was but another step in the storied journey of faith, a chance to transcend personal trials and illuminate a path for many. But the turmoil within him called for clarity. How would his newfound understanding manifest on the other side of this den? Would the story he carried out into the light become a beacon of hope for others, or merely a tale of survival? In the midst of the silence, a new question arose like the dawn breaking after a dark night. What if the true purpose of this moment is not merely deliverance, but rather the awakening of faith in all who witness it? Would he emerge as a beacon for others, or remain alone in the shadows of his own understanding? In the depths of the lion's den, the air thickened with an energy that seemed to pulse in harmony with the unspoken questions of the universe. Daniel remained transfixed by the lion's unwavering gaze, each exchange drawing him deeper into an introspective whirlpool. His heart quickened, echoing a curiosity that demanded resolution, yet it was the grandness of the moment that enveloped him like a warm cloak. He thought of the hearts and souls beyond the stone walls, the loud clamor of chaos that resonated above him. The guards, gripped by fear and confusion, were mere mortals hastening through a tempest of uncertainty. They sought a swift resolution, but Daniel understood that the real journey lay not always in the swift but in the slow, deliberate awakening to divine truths. Perhaps their terror mirrored his own, as they awaited a clarification that may never come. With each passing minute, the lion prowled closer, a mere whisper of distance separating them, its breath now a soft rhythm that played against the backdrop of Daniel's thoughts. What did it mean to harness faith under such intense scrutiny, to embody hope when all seemed lost? Did the lion represent the raw power of trust unbroken, a wild kinship with the divine that lay dormant in the hearts of men? A flicker of realization jolted through him. This moment held the essence of brotherhood, both with the lion and the guards. In that sacred space, Daniel felt a strong urge to bridge the divide. What if he, in sharing his experience, could ignite a glimmer of hope in those who feared the worst? He suddenly envisioned their faces, stark with worry and resignation, and he recognized that sharing one's truth could weave a fabric of faith that shrouded them all in a holistic triumph. The lion, sensing Daniel's shifting resolve, looked deeper into his eyes, as if awaiting a reveal. There lay wisdom in its silent presence. What was he meant to uncover? In trembling vulnerability, Daniel dared to query himself, why had he come to such a pit of shadows? Was it mere fate or a divine orchestration, a calling to speak truth where fear reigned? The realization that he bore a message struck him hard. Perhaps he was to emerge not just as a survivor, but as a prophet wrapped in humility. In the warm silence now weaving itself around them, Daniel spoke aloud, uncertain if it was trembling courage or brute desperation. "I am not here simply to live or die," he declared, the weight of each word bolstered by the truth of his heart. "I am here to witness that even in the den, faith can roar louder than chains of despair." The lion stepped even closer, leaning in as if it too acknowledged the profound shift within the spirit of the man. Was this, then, the revelation that lay at the heart of his trials? That the very act of defining his conviction had the power to set the stage for innumerable lives beyond his own? As the nocturnal world embraced him, Daniel felt a wave of peace. But still the questions lingered, unresolved threads begging to be drawn tighter. If Daniel's survival was a mere chapter in this saga, what larger narrative was God weaving through this encounter? Would faith truly ripple beyond the confines of his immediate challenge, lighting a path for others to follow? And in accepting this sacred role, what would become of his own fears and doubts that clung like shadows, even in moments of clarity? With the dawn not yet breaking, the lion emitted a low, rumbling sound that reverberated through Daniel's chest, a promise, an assurance of divine companionship that affirmed the weight of his journey. His spirit soared with the recognition that in embracing the deep questions of life beyond mere existence was coming alive in a different way. As the world above continued in its frantic rhythm, and the lion stood sentinel, Daniel realized that perhaps the greatest mystery lay ahead, beyond the stone, light beckoning him forward. What testimony awaited him on the other side? And how would he carry forth the amalgamation of his fears and truths into a world that was desperately hungry for hope? In the heart of the lion's den, where shadows danced with the flickering light of a distant flame, Daniel felt an unsteady pulse of anticipation. The lion now sat resolute, its majestic form casting a blanket of dignity over his trembling heart. Moments unfurled like the petals of a flower, revealing the tensions of the night, and Daniel pondered the depths of their shared silence. What met him in this unexpected sanctuary was not merely a test of endurance, but a dialogue of sorts, a sacred exchange between creature and man. He remembered the stories of old, the legends woven into the fabric of his people, where unassuming figures became vessels of miraculous truths. At that moment, Daniel wondered, could he, too, rewrite his existence in the midst of beasts, held captive by a collective sigh of faith and fear? The lion's gaze, filled with a wisdom that transcended words, communicated that there existed something greater than mere survival. In the wake of the guard's anxious whisperings and the king's decree that led him to this dark pit, Daniel began to perceive his predicament not merely as an end, but as a pivotal point, a sacred opportunity to unfold the magnificence of belief. With every breath he took, a memory surged forth, the countless prayers whispered under starlit skies, the narratives of the faithful who faced adversities with resilience. He recalled his friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, who too stood firm in the face of peril. Their stories were woven with threads of courage, defiance, and above all, unwavering faith in the ever-present God. Could it be that their energies spiraled together even now, spanning beyond the confines of the den? In this moment of reflection, Daniel allowed the essence of prayers to ripple through his very being. Each whispered desire for deliverance, each act of faith, became a shield to guard against despair. He realized that here, in a den of lions, he was not just a solitary figure, he was a representative of all who dared to dream, to believe against all odds. "What is the nature of my truth?" Daniel pondered aloud, his voice steadying with each repetition of his inquiry. The lion remained still, but its eyes reflected a glint of understanding, as if it was inviting him to delve deeper. Perhaps it too was a participant in some divine story, the keeper of secrets meant to bridge the realms of earthly existence and heavenly promise. In that quiet communion, Daniel began to grasp the essence of his shocking secret. It lay not in a miraculous escape, nor in the fear of the lions themselves, but in the profound connection between all living souls who seek the divine. It was a realization that faith demands an openness, a vulnerability that allows divine truth to weave through the cracks of hidden fears and into the radiance of possibility. Yet with this newfound awareness came a lingering question: if his faith alone could offer the promise of salvation, what then would unfold when he emerged from the darkness? Would he bear the weight of revelation with grace, or would the burden of expectation overshadow the joy of his journey? In the expanse of the night, Daniel felt the shift inside him grow palpable, a kinship blossoming not only with the lion but with every soul who wrestled with unseen fears. Their collective spirits became a tapestry exhibiting shades of hope, and he realized that perhaps his greatest calling would not just be to survive but to ignite the flame of courage in hearts long extinguished by doubt. As the world outside continued its tumultuous march, and the weight of despair hovered heavily over the kingdom, Daniel stood on the precipice of transformation. The lion's presence, a steadfast companion, seemed to breathe life into introspection, urging him onward. Yet as he breathed in the sanctity of the moment, one question began to echo louder than the rest: what legacy of faith would he craft in the light of the dawn that awaited him beyond the lion's den? And would he possess the strength to share it with the world still shrouded in fear? As the hours wound on, an otherworldly stillness enveloped the lion's den, mingled with the distant echoes of an anxious kingdom unaware of the momentous unfolding within. Daniel's heart, now rhythmically beating in tandem with the lion's soft, profound breaths, grew attuned to the whispers of the night. The darkness deepened around him, yet it no longer felt suffocating. Instead, it became a canvas, painted with the strokes of divine understanding, an invitation to embrace the unknown. The echoes of his past filled the air, and in the silence, he envisioned faces his ancestors, the prophets, all those who had walked the narrow path of faith under the oppressive sun of doubt. Each visage appeared to him, their experiences woven tightly into the fabric of his current trial. He silently sought their wisdom, drawing comfort from knowing he was not the first to wrestle with the appetite of despair. How many have faced the lion's roar and found strength in their stillness? He questioned, acknowledging the lineage of belief that coursed through his veins. Perhaps the lion beside him, that regal beast of ancient power, too held memories of times long past, of moments when survival depended on something far greater than mere instinct. Could it perhaps share its own stories of struggle and redemption, revealing layers of the sacred bond between man and nature? In a flash, a new thought unraveled in Daniel's mind: what if this lion was not mere beast, but a guardian? Throughout ages, lions had symbolized strength and courage, yet they also represented the balance of fierce power and gentle grace. Was it possible that between the two, in the unyielding gaze of the beast, was a silent understanding of mutual fate? Daniel felt that within this shared communion lay the grace of God, a reminder that divine presence often arrived cloaked in unexpected forms. The moments slipped by, charged with a sense of unfolding truth. As Daniel embraced the transformative power of faith, the lion stirred, breaking the quiet with a low, rumbling growl, a sound that reverberated within him, as if the very earth responded to his resolve. In that growl was a compelling call, a challenge to rise not only from the depths of despair but from the depths of self-doubt. Would he rise with the dignity deserved of a messenger of faith? Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath him, and a thought pierced through the veil of night. Perhaps this den was not merely a test, but a vessel of prophecy. Was it possible that in this encounter, destiny intertwined, weaving together strands of his life with those who would come after him? The thought brought forth a wave of urgency within him, a desire to be more than a survivor, to imprint the lessons gleaned from darkness upon the hearts of the kingdom waiting outside. Daniel marveled at the profound enigma of his journey. Each heartbeat echoed a truth. His existence was part of a tapestry too intricate to see fully yet. With every passing moment, he felt the weight of expectation shift, not merely towards the fear of death, but towards a promise to share the light of the lessons learned in shadows. What if his story, upon escaping this den, could kindle faith in a wavering heart? But doubt still lingered, a silent companion whispering long-held fears. As Daniel turned his gaze to the lion, he asked, "What if my revelations do not resonate as truth? What if my attempts to inspire only sow further seeds of skepticism?" The lion's gaze, unwavering and profound, seemed to suggest that uncertainty, too, was woven into the fabric of faith. Perhaps the journey lay in embracing fears openly, not as impediments but as impulses towards deeper understanding. The very act of questioning could be the catalyst that spurred others to seek their own sacred answers. As Daniel considered these things, a faint glimmer of dawn began to lighten the edges of the darkness surrounding the den. The promise of a new day beckoned, holding within it both the hope of deliverance and the fear of what might come thereafter. With the first rays of sunlight whispering their way into existence, he felt a resolve growing sharper within him, a determination to face both the kingdom and his own self with the courage kindled in the den. And so, as light crept upon the world, Daniel was left at the cusp of realization, the coiled energy of anticipation bubbling within him. What untold truths would emerge at dawn's embrace, and would he have the courage to illuminate the darkness in others, even if it meant grappling with his own shadows? As dawn's first light filtered into the lion's den, transforming shadows into hues of gold and bronze, Daniel found himself awash in a sense of renewal. The palpable silence of the night began to yield to the gentle chirps of awakening life, each sound nudging him toward a deeper introspection. The lion, now bathed in morning light, exuded an aura of majestic tranquility, as if it too had been waiting for this moment of revelation. In those quiet moments, Daniel couldn't help but ponder the deeper meaning of survival. He felt an ancient rhythm beneath his feet, an interconnected pulse between man and beast, a reminder that both were made of dust yet capable of greatness. What was the nature of this place that transformed him from a mere man into a vessel of divine purpose? Was the den itself a threshold not just of physical existence but of spiritual awareness, leading him toward profound knowledge? Drawing breath, he began to speak softly into the stillness. "What must I discern from this trial?" he murmured, aware that the question hung in the air, waiting for the wisdom of the ages to engulf him. Could the lion beside him offer insight not only through instinct but deeper understanding as a keeper of hidden truths, a witness to the delicate balance between fear and faith? As if in response to Daniel's inquiry, the lion shifted slightly, its intense amber eyes unwavering. In that gaze there was an entire history, a reflection of struggles and triumphs that echoed through the corridors of time. Within it lay stories of those who had faced overwhelming odds yet found a way to stand firm, stories he had studied in scrolls, passed down from generation to generation. "The heart speaks truth when the mind retreats in doubt," he began to say aloud, feeling the words flow from a well within him. "In uncertainty, we learn who we truly are." As he spoke, the enormity of his situation enveloped him once more. Daniel recognized that while the lion's roars were fierce, it was its quiet moments of reflection that held the true power. In stillness, there lay a profound strength that could not be knotted by circumstance. Yet, the encroaching reality of the kingdom outside pricked at Daniel's thoughts. His very existence, labeled a secretive creature of the night, was poised against the fervor of a crowd anxiously awaiting his fate. What would they do when they learned that the man who stood before them was both a survivor and a messenger of an unfathomable truth? Would they listen, or would they resist, clinging to the chains of disbelief? Daniel felt a pang of apprehension slither through him. Perhaps the true secret held within this den was not only personal but collective. It involved a liberation that extended beyond his own deliverance. What if this den was a crucible for the transformation of others? What if his survival was not merely an act of grace bestowed upon him, but a sacred challenge to penetrate the minds and hearts of those who turned away in fear? Can the suffering of one lead to the awakening of many? Daniel questioned aloud, his voice barely rising above the gentle rustling of morning leaves. As he contemplated the possibility, a longing stirred within him, a yearning to bridge the gap between his solitary experience and the broader human condition. Such was the nature of faith. It flourished in the soil of shared struggles, blossoming when roots reached deep into the fertile grounds of understanding and compassion. The lion, ever attentive, seemed to nod slightly as if in agreement, fusing the realms of man and nature in a silent testimony of interconnected fate. Yet doubt lingered, saturating the corners of his mind. Might the powers of ignorance overshadow his efforts to convey faith? How could he, a mere emissary, paint the truth of hope upon hearts marred by loss and fear? With day fully dawning, the world outside began to stir with restless energy. The weight of the moment pressed down upon him, but as he sensed the lion's presence beside him, a glimmer of courage ignited. The Bande Charita creature emblematic of both danger and protection reminded him that shadows could only exist in the presence of light. As he prepared to rise and face the reality awaiting him, Daniel's heart raced with questions swirling in the depths of his spirit. What revelations would he carry back to the world beyond, and would those secrets reveal the strength hidden within? In that moment of profound uncertainty, he realized the most potent catalyst was not merely knowledge but the courage to confront the unknown, where true faith lay waiting, poised to ignite a flame in the hearts of those lost in darkness. How could he transform this moment of personal salvation into a ripple of awakening for a kingdom teetering on the edge of doubt? As Daniel stood in the midst of the lion's den, firmly anchored by the weight of his thoughts, the sounds beyond the heavy stone walls grew louder. The clamor of anxious voices and rustling bodies pierced through the stillness, transforming the sanctuary of reflection into a stage of impending judgment. Each echoed footstep resonated like a war drum, announcing the advent of fate. Yet, in that moment of chaos, deep wisdom unfurled within Daniel's heart. The lion, still by his side, pulsed with a latent energy akin to that of the universe itself. Here, within the den, an ancient truth began to surface, one that transcended the boundaries of the physical realm. It dawned upon him that survival was not merely tied to the absence of danger but woven into the very tapestry of love and connection that God bestowed upon all creations. Could I be a vessel meant to carry this truth, to awaken the minds clouded by despair? He pondered, his spirit intertwining with the lion's fierce yet gentle presence, which served as a poignant reminder of resilience. Suddenly, the weight of expectation pressed upon him like the sky overshadowing the earth. The very essence of the den transformed in his eyes from a cage of trials to a sanctuary of profound revelation. A conviction ignited as shimmering light kindled within his soul, illuminating paths long concealed by shadows. Could this crucible of fear serve as the catalyst for a greater understanding both for him and for those waiting beyond these walls? As his breath steadied, Daniel felt inspired, not by the filthy muck that clung to his feet nor the fleeting bounds of time pressing upon him, but by an inviting whisper that rang through the air. Even in the darkest of places, a divine purpose unfolds, he realized, his voice rising with newfound vigor. And it is in our darkest hours that we can discover our truest selves. The din of the crowd grew ever closer, and Daniel's pulse quickened. He wondered about the faces that awaited him, each one observing, each one bearing their own burdens. Names unspoken echoed within him, a tapestry woven from the lives of his people, bound by fear, trepidation, and a longing for assurance. Would they see him merely as a target of their fear, or would they recognize the reflection of their innermost struggles mirrored in him? He recalled the stories his elders told, the tales of men and women who stood against insurmountable odds and faced their fears head-on. Their faith was more than just belief. It blossomed into actions, bridging moments of vulnerability to expressions of strength. Would he become one of those stories today? Would he find the courage to transcend not only his predicament but also the hearts of his people? The lion, who had been a silent companion, shifted again, its presence urging Daniel to embrace the moments that danced precariously on the edge of uncertainty. With every breath, he perceived a pulse of hope emanating between them, a challenge to face fear with awareness, to transcend the primal instinct of survival into a dialogue of faith. Let my journey here not just illuminate my deliverance, but illuminate the path for others, he whispered fervently, embracing a vision of awakening that coursed through the depths of his being. As dawn unfurled its light outside, Daniel felt the sun's warmth casting a golden hue upon the world. It was a reminder that light could penetrate even the thickest of shadows when given space. With each approaching footstep, he stood taller, realizing this moment was not simply about him, it was collective. The lion, the den, the crowd, all were part of a larger tapestry of existence, woven together by belief, doubt, fear, and certainty. Will my words carry a message that resonates beyond these stone walls? Can my survival become a beacon of shared understanding? The question simmered, swirling in his heart like a rising tide, an unresolved mystery beckoning him forward. As the stone door creaked open, revealing the sharp glare of the world outside, Daniel took a breath and prepared to step into the light. The lion at his side stood as witness, guarding the secret truths that transcended this moment of trial. How could such a fleeting encounter within the depths of despair serve as a profound awakening for a kingdom in need of hope? Would the visions ignited in the den blossom into seeds of faith that rooted deeply into the hearts of his people? In that moment between thrum and echo, Daniel knew he was on the precipice of revelation, one that was yet to be fully grasped. As the stone door creaked open, the harsh light of dawn flooded into the den, a stark contrast to the shadowed spaces where Daniel had wrestled with his fears. He stood at the threshold, heart racing, the warmth of morning illuminating him with a bright clarity. The lion beside him, regal and potent, shared that moment in a bond forged through silence, fear, and emerging faith. Before him lay a crowd, a throng of concerned faces, brimming with anxiety and uncertainty about the outcome of his fate. They murmured amongst themselves, their words weaving a tapestry of fear and doubt. Daniel could feel their collective apprehension, the energy vibrating through the air as if it carried the weight of unseen hopes. Yet within him, a tranquility began to settle, a peace rooted in the certainty that he was not alone in this moment. Stepping forward, he breathed deeply, letting the air fill his lungs, grounding him in the reality of his purpose. The lion at his side exuded a presence both fierce and serene, a reminder that strength intertwined with grace, and so too could his testimony flow forth with both courage and compassion. "People of Babylon," Daniel called out, his voice breaking through the murmurs, resonating with a power that shocked him. This was not merely an announcement, it was an invitation, a call to awaken from their slumber of doubt. The crowd hushed, eyes fixed upon him with a mixture of trepidation and anticipation. They hungered for answers, and he felt the call to share not just his survival but the profound truths that had unfurled within the depths of the lion's den. "I have been brought low to be raised up," he began, the words pouring forth like water from a cracked vessel, each syllable fortified by the deep, subterranean reservoir of faith he had cultivated over the years. "The lions did not attack because I was not alone. I was accompanied by a presence fierce yet gentle. My deliverance is a testament not to my strength alone, but to the divine grace that accompanies the faithful in their trials." With each word, he felt a shifting in the crowd, an awakening in their posture, a hunger for what lay behind the confines of fear. Daniel glanced at the lion, whose gaze remained steady, urging him onward. "I stand before you not just to recount a miraculous survival. I stand to proclaim that we are all participants in a greater story. We are called to rise against the edicts of fear and despair that bind us. My faith has led me to this point, and it is through that faith that I am here to share a message of hope." The crowd's whispers grew more fervent as he passionately unveiled the grace surrounding him. In every lion's den, in every trial, there is an opportunity for transformation. Where the world attempts to seal us away in darkness, faith beckons us into the light. We must not only survive, we must emerge as beacons of faith, warriors of hope, A ripple of recognition swept through the gathering as murmurs turned to gasps. Daniel felt the tide shift. What began as their story of fear was morphing into a shared narrative of resurrection and redemption. In that moment, he understood that each soul present held the potential for their own awakening. "Trust," he implored, casting his gaze wide amongst the crowd. "Trust in the unseen, for the essence of the divine dwells within each of us. When trials come, we must remember that we are never truly alone. This den may have been a pit of despair, but it has also been a sanctuary of revelation." In his heart, the lion's presence pulsed as a reminder that true faith does not shield us from the realities of fear but equips us to leap fearlessly toward the unknown. Swept up by the momentum of his own words, Daniel began to realize that humility and courage coexisted. That his survival was but a prelude to a greater awakening, the invitation to illuminate pathways for others. They needed only to embrace their own fears, to recognize that surrender was not a loss, but a gateway to light. As he concluded, a profound silence blanketed the crowd. The weight of his testimony lingered in the air, like incense, both fragrant and heavy, as it settled into the hearts of those who listened. "Let us become a people of faith," he urged, "not merely outrunning our fears but transforming them into the fuel for a brighter destiny together." And within that sacred moment, the crowd erupted, no longer simply a collection of anxious faces, but a unified chorus yearning for liberation. Emotions surged, voices rose, and amongst the cacophony, Daniel felt the power of faith ripple to life in every heart present. Amidst the awakening of hope, he caught the lion's eye one last time, an understanding passing between them that spanned not just moments but lifetimes. The lion had been both a companion and a giddy, a powerful embodiment of the sacred truth that deliverance often lies in turning towards our fear, embracing it, and allowing it to metamorphose into faith. As the growing morning light illuminated the faces in the crowd, Daniel found himself surrounded by souls shedding layers of doubt, stepping into the embrace of collective faith. He had not only emerged from a den of lions but kindled a fire of purpose that would extend far beyond the walls of Babylon. And so, upon the threshold of a new realm, Daniel smiled at the dawn breaking before him, a promise that faith would always rise to meet the challenges of despair. In the depths of darkness came not just survival, but a revelation that echoed in hearts across generations, that in every lion's den, there lies the sacred opportunity to discover not just who we are, but who we are meant to become.